Hello everyone. First and foremost, happy birthday to the first video on this channel, the Momo video. It turned 2 years old on Sunday the 2nd, which is also the day that my dad and stepmom got married only 10 years after that. So what a coinky dink. Never would I have imagined that it would gain over 2,000 views in 2 years. Like the second most viewed video on this channel being Kale-Idle-Scope, the first one, you know? It doesn't even have 20% that much. So I don't know why this video is so special. It could just be because it's the first one, but again, I have no idea. Now you guys probably wouldn't have guessed that by the thumbnail or the title that we would be talking about the Home Alone video game for Super Nintendo. Now I already know what you're thinking. Kale, please don't tell me you're doing some video game blog review or whatever like you did in episode 46. Well, yes, I am. We will be talking a little bit about the movie as well, but this game has a nostalgic place in my heart, despite the fact that the game overall kind of sucks. Before we get to that though, I'd like to state that the house that the movie was filmed at is still standing today. You know, that one. Just kidding, I'm not actually there. However though, the house has been completely remodeled on the inside. On the outside it basically looks the same after 101 years, but there's a metal fence that's surrounding the property today. It's probably because the people living there don't want to acknowledge the film nor its fans. I guess it kind of makes sense because, one, that would get annoying just having people stopping by your property every day, and two, it would probably be uncomfortable watching a movie with a budget that was filmed on the same place that you live in, but it looks way different during the time it was filmed. So yeah, I don't really blame them. But the film is, and probably always will be, a holiday classic. I know it's silly as hell watching those goofy-ass burglars get fooled by every contraption made by an 8-year-old. The timing in the films is just way too perfect to be real, and the burglars would definitely have died during all that. Like, think about it, they get caught on fire, they get a nail in their foot, they're dead. I mean, you gotta keep in mind that not only was this kid 8 years old, but this was the early 90s. The only way you could call the police back then is if you happened to be near one of those phones that were hanging on the wall. There were no mobile phones in 1990. And you can even tell this from the movie itself because Marv was worried that Kevin was going to call the police in the treehouse and Harry's like, shut up. And he didn't say it like that, but you know what I mean. There was no such thing as a mobile phone back then, okay? But these days you can call the cops from pretty much anywhere unless you're in like the most rural places on Earth, but I digress. So how do you take the premise of setting up booby traps to keep burglars out of your house and turn that into a video game? It doesn't sound like it'd be that difficult, honestly. I mean, in fact, the Genesis version did just that. They focused on setting up booby traps to stop the goofy-ass burglars. But I did not grow up with the Genesis version. I grew up with the Super Nintendo version. Let's see what they came up with here. And no, they're not the same game. I mean, they're branded as the same game, but they have different designs because, I don't know, they just do. Now, there is booby trap placing in this game, but it's very minimal. Your goal is to grab as many valuable items as possible and throw them down in the laundry chute that leads to the basement where the safe room is. You do this for about 4 different houses and then the game is complete. Wow, what a lot of variety. Yeah, in the movie, Kevin didn't go to like 4 different houses to get other people's valuables and throw them down the laundry chute and get them in the safe room. That didn't happen in the movie. But I guess they had to come up with other level ideas than just the McAllister's house, so kind of had to just work that out. Now you're collecting different items for each house you go to. In House 1 it's treasure, in House 2 it's toys, in House 3 it's electronics, and in House 4 it's pets. Yeah, I'm not making that up. You can tell they're running low on ideas here. I don't know why a burglar would want to take your pet in the first place, but I digress. Now, my first major complaint with this game is that there are too many reoccurring burglars. When making a game based off of a film, you need to get a little creative, but still stay true to the movie. And obviously, they couldn't have just Harry and Marv be the only burglars in the house. They had to make more enemies than just that, which they did. However, they used 2 or more of the same sprite to represent 2 or more burglars. I mean, it could just be hardware limitations because this game is a Super Nintendo game. But if that's the case, then why have this many burglars in the same house to begin with? Now, speaking of the burglars, they don't even try to, attack you or anything. Most of the time, they either just stand there or walk back and forth. They were just being lazy assholes with the AI in this game. I mean, now this particular part's not in my notes, and I'm always coming up with new ideas that are afterthoughts to fill the episode length with, but there's weapons in the game. And, okay, so if you drop one of the valuables, they're gonna try to run towards it and take it, but they don't even try to do that if they're not on the floor. And like I said just a minute ago, there are weapons, but they're like the water gun, which is the starting weapon. What's that gonna do? And, you can squirt them with a water gun, and they'll be, stunned, and be like, ugh! But how does that work? Imagine squirting somebody with a small-ass water gun in real life, and they, grunt. Come on now. Later in the game, you get baseballs and BB guns, which I guess do more damage than a freaking water gun, but still. Now, like I mentioned earlier, you're trying to get valuable items and put them in the basement. But the placements for some of these items couldn't have been any more absurd. You'll find big-ass toy trains hidden behind lamps on the wall, or even other things hidden in the freaking toilet. Is that a normal place to put this crap? Okay, so there's health power-ups in the game, right? There's pizza slices, which give you, an extra life if you grab all 8 of them, and cookies, which restore health. But again, they're in the damn toilet. Sometimes. Couldn't they have made it a little bit more realistic than that? My god. Well, anyways, so let's move on to something else. There are a limited amount of things you can carry in your backpack in one run. Why they couldn't let us fit everything in there is beyond me. I mean, it's not like they were trying to be realistic with this game. I mean, come on. But apparently when you go to a new house, your backpack can hold more stuff than it could before. I mean, I get what they're trying to go for here. They wanted the player to go to the chute less frequently because each new house has more valuables in it than the last. But come on, be consistent, game. Alright, well, I know I could be missing out a lot of parts here, but let's just do one more, because I think you guys get the idea. So the enemies in the basement are different from the ones in the other parts of the house. They aren't burglars. These enemies are spiders, rats, bats, and ghosts. And there's so many of one type of those enemies in each house that you'd think there would be a bigger problem with infestation than there would be with burglars. Do they live near a zoo or something? The spiders in the second house are just way too large. And there's really no reason why we have to jump over them, when we could have just collected all the valuables and let the level end there. Yeah, so in conclusion, most people would probably call this a pretty bad game, but I wouldn't call it horrible. It could just be nostalgia holding me back, but still, this game is not good. But I'll always remember it because, it's a place in my heart, if you get what I'm saying. Well, folks, that was this episode. I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.